that's why it's really important to have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this Degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss.
Really, at the end of the day, it's just the matter of a macro market. It's just what happens.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, so we can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels, welcome to this here episode number 71 of the Degen Roundtable. Is Bitcoin preparing for its next big leg up? For those of you guys that don't know, my name is Will Stevenson. Welcome to the Degen Roundtable. I am joined today by my two fantastic panelists, Mr. Agent J, our great value technical analyst, as well as Mr. Brendan, the Anonymous Bean, our super duper fancy smanchy government and macroeconomics expert. Gentlemen, how are you doing? What is new and exciting with you? Agent J, what's going on, broski?
As I was telling Bean in the green room, it's the same shit, different day, basically for me. I get up in the morning before the sun is up. I go to the gym. And then I go on the road to pick up merchandise for my business. And then I work on my business. And then in between all of that, I go on the charts and do some TA for people. I do some live streams sometime in the afternoon. And that's basically the gist of my week. And it's only broken up during times like these when I get to stream here with the rest of the gang, or in the evenings when I'm relaxing and then the wife is wants to play video games. But other than that, just enjoying enjoying the sideways market, I guess. Not really enjoying, I guess, because I can spend a little bit more time taking some shots in some altcoins that I have stronger conviction in. But I guarantee you, man, a lot of people are not feeling this sideways range bound time that we've spent during the first few months of the year, because I think everybody also thinks that altcoins should have taken off by now. But, you know, we're going to go over some of the reasons why we think that's probably not the case and why that's probably not going to happen, at least within the short term, like of the next few weeks. But I'll leave that the meat and potatoes for the rest of the stream. Mr. Bean, how you doing, sir? It's good to see you.
What is up? Feels good to be back. It's been weeks, you know, so much going on. Got married. I think I've been on once or twice since then. But it was a big change in my life. Lots of big changes, actually. So I worked the same job for a little over 10 years, the same company. And this past Friday, 2 days ago, was my last day of that company. So 10 years. My life in 22 years of working, since I've essentially been old enough to work, I've been working really since I was 13. But aside from that, I've worked for two companies, one for 12 years, one for 10 years. So moving on out, starting a new job tomorrow. And it's a really good opportunity for me, kind of a bit of a promotion, and also back to, in the same industry, but really the focus on what I want to focus on. So I'm excited for it. It's going to give me a lot of opportunity for personal growth, learn new skills, which is, what we preach all the time. And I was kind of feeling a bit stagnant in my last job. And I've been considering a move for a bit now. And so this is a really good opportunity for me. I'm going to be a national sales manager for a facade company. And so I'll be responsible for their entire sales team, inside and outside sales. And so it gives me definitely an ability to work on new skills that I haven't worked on in the past. So I'm excited about that. And it'll also take me out of Miami at some point in the near future. So probably within the next 6 months, I will also be moving. So married, new job, and moving. And so, jumping all in, making all the changes to try to better myself.
That's perfect timing for our the theoretical Degen meetup there. Oh, son of a bitch. I lost my display. I can't see anything that's going on. I'm hoping that I still have audio. I'm fairly certain that I do. But okay,
Yeah.
What's that?
We
Oh, you
still
can
have
still see me?
on audio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, cool beans. I must have. So like I'm operating off of my phone right now because I couldn't get my headset to connect to my computer, and everything's a little bit more funky and wonky than it usually is. I'm up at my father's house up in Washington State right now. So back in the place of my birth and being born and raised and whatnot. Life is good. But what was I saying? Oh yeah. So you might be moving out of Miami like right after we do our little theoretical Degen assembly over there in Miami. There's been talk. I don't think we've solidified anything yet, but we're wanting to do a Degen roundtable meetup in Miami at some point this year. Who knows what'll actually happen and where these markets take us and what's actually going. But that might be happening in the eventual future. We'll see. But
That's the hope.
What was that?
I said that's the hope. I mean, a Degen meetup would be ideal. Like, we've built a great community. There's so many people in this community that I want to meet in person, and it would be an excellent time for all of us. But let's hope this market turns around at some point in 2025 and brings us the gains that we all want and that we've all worked hard for. But with the best things in life, they take a lot of patience, and they also take a little bit of pain. I was having a conversation with somebody today that was dealing with a bit of a breakup, and she was really struggling. And, I said that it takes pain and hurt to grow and to heal. And that's no different in any aspect of your life. It takes hard work, it takes effort, it takes pain, suffering, and then you can grow. So let's hope the same for our portfolio.
Here's hoping. Man, dude, we've been going up and down and touching that $100,000 mark like so many fucking times. I saw this meme earlier where it's like, the Grim Reaper walking down the hallway, and then there's all these like doors that are like open with blood trailing out, and is like going to open the next one, and each one of them says like Bitcoin $100,000 with the fucking Grim Reaper. That shit was funny as hell. Before we hop into the chat shoutouts, Agent J, you had said something earlier that I wanted to touch on, and I totally, for the life of me, can't remember what it was. So I'll just go ahead and say thank you both for joining me today. And now it's time for us to go and hop right on over into chat motherfucking shoutouts, everybody. The best part of the show where we interact with you, and thank you guys for interacting with us. So Mrs. Producer, if you don't mind, let's go ahead and start throwing up these chats. Looks like first and foremost of the night, we've got Moonpilled Rational Optics coming in saying crypto degenerates assemble. I'm sure he meant to type degenerates. Yeah. What's up, Moonpill? Good to see you, broski. A good real life friend of mine. I'm excited to see you when next I'm over in your neck of the woods. Next up, we've got a classic crypto mindset community gentleman, the Black Label Expat, showing up with the what's up. Good to see you, Black Label Expat. Welcome to the stream, broski. Glad that we could have you with us today. After that, we've got my good friend, Dr. Alan Chen, Your Health Unplugged. Happy Sunday, Degens. Happy Sunday to you too, Dr. Alan. Good to see you. I tagged you recently in the, because Dr. Alan likes to play padel, which is similar to pickleball and tennis. And we were talking about that over in the Degen Roundtable Telegram. That's what I wanted to say. Actually, member guys, go join the Degen Roundtable Telegram. If you're not already a member, we've got a QR code right on down there in the bottom center of the screen. You can also type in t.me/DRT join now, or click on the link that I have dropped in the live stream chats and things. But continuing on with the chat shoutouts, next up, we've got none other than my father, Will Stevenson Jr., saying, hurrah, it is nice to have Will here. Yes, those of you guys that did not know, I am, again, at my father's house up in Washington. So it's good to be here with my dad, and life is good up here in the great Pacific Northwest. Next up in the chat shoutouts, we've got Mr. Marcus72 saying, what is up all? What up all? Good to see you, Marcus72. Welcome to the stream, broski. Glad that we can have you. After that, none other than Miss Crypto Stylist coming in all the way from over in Asia. Good morning, Degens. Good morning to you too, ma'am. Glad to see you. Glad you can join us from wherever you are over in the far, far east. After that, we've got Large, the everyone's favorite bloody stormtrooper with the let's fucking go. I agree, broski. Let's fucking go. What's up, Degens? Glad that we could have you all over here tonight. And then Mrs. Producer she's got the scan me code for the Degen Roundtable. For those of you guys that don't know, you can click on that little Can you go ahead and pull up that comment? Yes, there we go. Scan me, and that shows you the little QR code where you guys can scan to join the DRT community. Again, we do a lot of cool stuff over there in the Telegram. I highly recommend that you guys join. Agent J does a lot of streams over there, giving up some good technical analysis and doing all sorts of fancy schmancy stuff. And yeah, it is a great place to be. We were just actually earlier today, we were just talking about a D&D campaign possibly starting in the near future. So I'm pretty excited for that. I've never played like a proper game of D&D before. I like stood in for one session with a friend of mine, and I didn't understand anything that was going on. And that was like a real life IRL one. So I'm super stoked to see what we can do with D&D over in the Degen Roundtable community thing. I think it was Agent J, if I'm not mistaken, Kenturian was saying he could be our dungeon master or something like that.
Yeah. Kenturian's the one who volunteered to be dungeon master. It was actually David who suggested, because we started talking about it in chat, and he was like, we might be able to actually get a campaign together here. But David, he's still fairly busy, and so I think Centurion, he said that he's had some experience doing dungeon DMing before, and so he volunteered, which is great, because I have no experience DMing. I've always been a player character. So God bless you, Centurion, for volunteering for that role. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The D&D is a lot of fun when you have one. I was talking to David about it. It really comes down to having a competent dungeon master, right? Especially somebody who's flexible and can pivot on the dime and can really give you a narrative, because that's the big draw point of D&D, right? It's like the role playing element. And so, and the story building and the world building, and that's really up to your DM to take care of that. So, I think we'll have a pretty good thing running, especially since, we do have some beginners. Like Will's going to be beginner. I think Jeff said he wanted to jump in, and you have a lot of experienced people that have played before, and so that's going to make the learning curve a lot flatter too. Because you're right, the first time that I did it, right, I also just kind of jumped in the middle of the game, and like, the learning the language and learning the technicalities and the fundamentals of the game, it's overwhelming sometimes if you don't have anybody to kind of handhold you. But it seems like we have a bunch of people that are fairly experienced already, so that I think you guys are going to have fun if especially if both you and Jeff decide to join.
It'll be good. Brendan, have you played D&D before?
Yeah, I played D&D a bit. Played quite a few different role-playing style games. D&D is a lot of fun, and like Jay said, you really need someone to be able to spin that narrative, and it can get hairy sometimes in some of these campaigns. So it really takes a good balance, from story to challenging, but also giving you a chance to get out of these things. Like I don't love campaigns where it's like, oh man, so quickly it's like, okay, I got to roll a 1% chance to roll what I need to get out of this scenario. So I do want a balance of challenging, but also like the ability to actually get through it, and have a good story arc, and from a character standpoint and from an overall party standpoint. But yeah, there's also a couple other great games out there that if you don't have necessarily a dungeon master, there's games like Gloomhaven that like have pre-built stories, but they're sort of in that same realm of D&D. But they're card building games, and so it kind of has that same style, but really a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, I know almost nothing about anything in this realm, so I'm super stoked to get into it. And speaking of Kenturian 54X, to finish off the chat shoutouts, it looks like we've got the dungeon master himself. What's up, Degens? What's up, Kenturian? Good to see you, broski. Our favorite Oregonian
dungeon master.
Yes, our favorite pilot dumbass farmer dungeon master. We can add that to your list of accomplishments, good sir. Good to see you, Centurion. Welcome. And Moonpilled Rational Optics is coming in here with an idea for the name of our quest, the quest for crypto profits. Double entendre. That's very good. That's that's actually, those are called eggcorns. What you're doing right there, Moonpilled Rational Optics. I love it when you spell a word the same way that it's pronounced. So like acorn and eggcorn, or like kitchen sink, like the kids NSYNC. There's all sorts of things out there. Oh, we got more people rolling in here with the chat shout outs. Mrs. Producer, can you pull up Mr. Niles Jenkins? we've got the turbo nerds assembling over there. That's freaking great. Yes, absolutely, turbo nerds. I remember like back in the early 2000s, being called a nerd used to be like the end of the world. That was like the worst possible thing. And then the internet became really common, and everyone realized like, oh, we're all nerds, and so like there's no point hiding it anymore. So that's freaking excellent. It's good to see you, Niles, though. Welcome, welcome.
Yeah, that stereotype has definitely been broken. I know just in my local gym, like a lot of jack dudes that are fucking weebs.
Oh yeah.
So that stereotype has definitely been broken. The term nerd doesn't have the same like derogatory attachment that the word once had way back when, like maybe in the early 90s or something. Like it doesn't elicit the image of a Poindexter with glasses that are too big for his face, pocket protector, shirt tucked in, etc., etc. It doesn't elicit that same type of image anymore.
I mean, we actually have somebody in crypto that has that image. Like if you looked up the dictionary definition of nerd, I think his photo would be up, and that's our man Soy Boy Vitalik.
Oh man, he literally got pissed off at World of Warcraft, and so he invented a whole cryptocurrency to basically deal with the. Oh, that's a good one, Mr. Dr. Chen. Your Health Unplugged brings up simp is the new version of nerd, and I would agree. That's
fair.
Oh man, I can't remember what simp stands for. I know it stands for something. I don't know. It stands for something. But yeah, simp is definitely the new version of nerd, the people that are paying the girls for more or less receiving nothing but attention on the internet. So that's 100% right. Well, that does it for chat shoutouts, ladies and germs. Good to have you all with us here today. Let's go ahead and Agent J, why don't you go ahead and start us off this evening with a little bit of technical analysis, and then we'll talk about everyone wanting to buy Bitcoin. So let's go ahead and launch right on into it, if you don't mind, sir.
Sure. Let's go ahead and bring up the Bitcoin chart. I've been very much focused on the Hex and Pulse chain ecosystem for the past week because there were some interesting moves happening there. But I promise everybody that we're gonna go and circle back to analyzing Bitcoin on the flagship show. So here we are, gonna go and do an analysis on all the things that we usually go over, right? So we're going to go over time, we're going to go over trend, we're going to go over price, we're going to go over momentum. All right. First and foremost, let's go over the bearish case for Bitcoin, right? Because an argument could be made that the bull market is indeed over. So you guys know me. I like to give you both the bearish and the bullish case for price action, in this case for Bitcoin, because an analyst must always have a bullish and a bearish case. So the bearish case for Bitcoin here in the weekly is that we already have a 5-wave sequence, Elliott wave sequence complete, right? And then your end result basically is lower prices from here on, right? This is the dreaded extended bear market that people have been speaking about that are a little bit more bearish than the folks over here at the Degen Roundtable, right? So an argument can be made based on structure and actually based on price and in time that the sequence is over, right? We do have a right translated cycle in terms of price, new all-time high occurred after the post-halving year. So there's your time component, even though it's not at the end of the post-halving year, like most people want the top to come in, right? In terms of structure, you have a nice 5-wave Elliott sequence here, right? And you do have actually some of the minimum targets for price to reach in terms of a top for the bull market, which we will actually go over. So what is it going to take for me to get a little bit more bearish? Because as you guys know, even though I am short-term bearish, I am long-term bullish, right? I am a firm believer in market cycle theory. You guys know that I stand behind the theory of if a pattern has not broken, don't assume that it will break until it actually does, right? And so I am going to make the assumption that market cycle theory is going to hold because since Bitcoin's inception, it has not done anything but hold. So I will maintain that the market cycle theory does hold. Well, in terms of lower price action, if we are indeed at the end of the bull market, right? What's going to make me very confident is actually if we get consecutive weekly closes below the $90,000 level, right? So that's just below the range here that we've been trading in for about the last 2 months or so, right? This range here. I made it a very clear to the group over the past week that this cycle is unique and that we have spent almost every single one, well, actually not almost every single one of our corrections within a range-bound time frame, right? And so this is what's unique and what's different about our current market cycle, right? And I think that actually has a lot to do with the Federal Reserve and monetary policy, right? But that's a conversation that we'll have for later. So if we get weekly closes below that $90,000 level, that is going to make me lean a little bit more bearish. And more importantly, right, if we actually hit this particular invalidation, right? If we hit, it's not an invalidation. Let me correct myself, right? If we get weekly closes below $90,000 and then we actually make our way down, if price makes its way down to the upper band of this this last area of consolidation here, that's going to make me a lot more bearish than I currently am, right? In particular, because of the following. If we're still looking for a 4, right? You can make the argument that, okay, if we are indeed, oh, actually, this is not on this chart. So let me go ahead and save that for a later time, right? So I'll leave it at that for now before we get to that portion of the analysis, right? You don't want any weekly closes below $90,000 because not only is that a significant sign of weakness, right? Because we're breaking below this upper range here. But if you can also see that we have almost zero support in between the $85,000 area and then the next area of major support, which is this range up here, and that's going to be at around $75,000, right? And so if you lose this bottom range support and then crash all the way down, that's going to make me a little bit more bearish than I currently am. But as it stands, the bull market still has a very good chance of making new all-time highs all the way up until late Q3, early Q4 of this year. Right. So that's your bearish argument on a larger time frame. Now, how about for the bulls? Well, for the bulls, we are still looking for an extension of the wave 5, right? So for the bears, their wave 5 is already in. However, for the bulls, this 5 is going to extend a little bit further up. Well, the question is, where is price action going to take us on the way up for the latter half of this year? Well, first and foremost, if you take a trend-based fib extension, our trend-based fib extension is taken from the start to the end of 1 to the end of 4. And the reason why we pull the fib extension that way is because we're comparing the magnitude of gain for wave 1 versus the magnitude of gain for wave 5. And the reason why that's a useful fib extension is because as an Elliott wave analyst, which I am a predominantly Elliott wave analyst, we always make the assumption, unless otherwise proven, that your wave 3, which is here, is going to be the most impulsive. All right? And so with that assumption baked into the cake, we can now make another reasonable assumption that 1 and 5 will tend to be equal in terms of magnitude, in this case, in terms of percent gain. And so as you can see, right, we've already hit the 1-for-1 fib extension, which means wave 5 is already basically at the same percent gain as your wave 1, right? Another kind of argument for the bears, right? We've already hit the minimum extension for wave 5 that we expect in terms of price. Now, how about higher prices if we are to look higher? Well, you can also take another trend-based fib extension taken from the start of 1 to the end of 3 to the end of 4. And the most common targets for your wave 5 are as follows. Right, we're going to start broad here, and then we're going to get more granular so we could get a little bit more honed in terms of where can we find price exactly to hit for that wave 5, right? A common extension for the 5 is between the 382, which we've already hit, and this 618 Fibonacci extensions. So that's anywhere between 95,000, like I said, we've already hit that, all the way up until $137,000 and 700, right? Rare targets is between the 786 and the 1-for-1 fib extension, right? Which places us as at $180,000, and that all elusive $250,000, right? This number should be familiar to many folks because you have a lot of analysts, not just technical analysts, but like traditional financial people, right? Clamoring for 250,000. That should also be familiar to the Richard Hart people because you know that he's called for a top for this cycle anywhere between $240,000 and $250,000. Right. So let's go ahead and actually put a box here, a broad ranging box to start, right? So that puts us in between 180,000, a low of 114 to a high of $180,000, right? Now, let's take another trend-based fib extension taken from the start to the end of 3 to the end of 4. Now we're comparing the magnitude of 3 to 5. And like I mentioned earlier, if we were going to assume that wave 3 is your most impulsive, that means that your wave 5 does not go beyond the 1-for-1 fib extension, right? Because that would mean 5 would extend beyond the gains of 3, and that's not what we're looking for. So as you can see here, right, the box becomes a lot more narrower in terms of our price targets because the 1-for-1 fib extension is up at $156,000. And then the 786 is just slightly above our current all-time highs at $124,000, right? And so with those assumptions baked into the cake, we can expect wave 5 to fall somewhere in between $124,000 and $156,000, right? Again, making the assumption that your 5 does not extend beyond the gains of 3. And so that means the gains are somewhere and beyond in the territory of beyond wave 1 and just below wave 3, right? So that our targets are a little bit more specific between $124,000 to $156,000 Bitcoin. Right, so that's for the bullish case on the daily. But how about what's going to happen like within the next week or so, Jay? You said that you were short-term bearish. So what can we expect of price on the short term if we're looking for a few more entry points to dollar cost average into Bitcoin and other altcoins? Well, for that, we have to go into a little bit more lower time frames, so I could show you guys the current market structure. So even on the 4-hour chart, right? Whether you're looking at this from the weekly chart, the monthly chart, the daily chart, 4-hour chart, we're looking for higher price actions, right? The only question is, right, when is our correction going to be over, right? When is this range going to be over? Because as you can see, we also have another impulsive structure here for a strategically placed at this area, as you'll see in a minute. Because I personally think, right, I have a short-term bearish bias. You have a 1, 2, 3 already in green, larger degree, right, which completes this purple move in a smaller degree. And what are our possible price targets for the wave 4? Well, if you take a fib retracement tool, and that is taken from the from the end of 2 to the end of 3. And your more common fib retracements for your wave 4 are between the 236 fib and then the 0.5 Fibonacci. So that places you between $94,500 and $80,200. And as you can see, we've already hit the common fib retracement of the 236. But in terms of structure, in my personal opinion, the structure that's developing is not yet over, right? And so the next common area that we're taking a look at is the 382, which lands us at about $86,317 for Bitcoin. Now, you heard me mention earlier that I do not want Bitcoin to lose that $85,000 area. And the reason for this is the invalidation that I mentioned earlier, right? If we're still looking for a 4 to come in, the invalidation for your 4 is right here at the 618. right? 74,579, which is just above the top range of support, right? This is the prior trading range that Bitcoin spent in the middle of last year in 2024. So if you come back down to that $74,500 area, that invalidates your wave 4, which makes me lean much heavier for the bearish count and that the bull market is over, right? So the bulls definitely don't want to revisit $75,000 in terms of price. Okay. So that leaves us with the following fibs between the 236 and the 0.5. Well, we can get a little bit more granular in terms of potential targets to the downside if you were so inclined to dollar cost average into Bitcoin, right? But obviously, when Bitcoin drops, the altcoin market follows. So whatever price Bitcoin hits during that correction, well, you could probably bet that the altcoin market is going to drop also. So I keep it simple. Whatever price Bitcoin is at, whatever price the altcoins match it, that's when I dollar cost average into those altcoins, right? So what are our targets to the downside? And those targets are as follows. Okay. So for the correction to finish, WXY, we have your W in, your X in, and now we're looking for that Y to finish, which would also complete your 4 in a larger degree, right? And within your Y, an A is already in, right? We have a leading contracting diagonal, a 3-wave corrective move for B, and now we're looking for your C to finish, right? Your C could be any corrective pattern. It could be, right? It could be another zigzag, right? A 5-wave move to the downside. Sorry, not a zigzag, a 5-wave impulse to the downside before continuation up, right? It could be a flat, like so, before continuation up, or it could be a triangle, right? Another 5 legs like so, before continuation to the upside, right? So what are your potential targets for that move? And I want to bring your attention to this box right here, right? And the reason for that box is as follows. We have a ton of confluence around that particular area that price can find support at before continuation to the upside. Number one, right? You have a monthly point of control at 91,545, a weekly point of control at 89,371. And then if you take a trend-based fib extension, right, from the start to the end of W to the end of X, and you can see that the 1-for-1 fib extension and the 1.236 extension also falls in that box. And then finally, a trend-based fib extension taken from the start to the end of A to the end of B. And you can see that the 1-for-1 common fib extension, in this case for a zigzag, also lands you somewhere in that box, right? That 1-for-1 extension is at 90,686. So you'll have a lot of horizontal support around that box, right? In terms of Fibonacci's, in terms of points of controls, and in terms of 60-day cycles, right? This is your cycle low here. And we know that cycle lows tend to form a strong area of support if price were ever to revisit it. So there's another point of confluence, right? And so your targets to the downside land you in the range of 88,847 at the low end, and on the high end, 91,696. And those are your bearish targets for Bitcoin for the short term. And that is where I will leave you in terms of the analysis. Will, Brendan, any questions and concerns for... Oh, actually, before we move on, right, let's go over 60-day cycles very quickly.
Okay.
Where is my 60-day cycles? Here we go. Let me go back and switch to the daily. And turn on my 60-day cycles. We are currently on day number 35 of the 60-day cycle, and we have a high here on day number 7. Now, I still maintain that this is the 60-day cycle for the bulls to lose. However, as I mentioned in the chat, the bulls are not exactly stepping in and supporting price here. The unfortunate reality is we have significant weakness in the chart as it stands, right? We made a strong move up here to new all-time highs, but we've just been range bound for the last few weeks or so after the correction down. right? And so really, the best case scenario, which is what everybody wants, is that we get a right translated cycle where you take out this high and you make new highs into the latter half of the 60-day cycle. But as it stands, that doesn't seem to be the case for the bulls, right? And so what's your next best case? Well, your next best case scenario is making a 60-day cycle low sometime around the second week of March, right? Because 60 days takes us at March 14th. So your next best case scenario is we get a left translated cycle, but we do make a higher low, which means we don't take out this $91,500 low that we made just a few weeks ago in early February. That's your next best case scenario. Well, a worst case scenario is we do take out that low, but we don't take out the last cycle low here at $89,000. And if you do take that level, well, your next best scenario, which is going to be your more bearish case, is that you find support somewhere here at the bottom of our range around that $85,000 level. And like I keep mentioning, you do not want to lose that level because below it is a gap of absolute nothingness.
Yeah. It's a long way down.
It's a long way down, folks. All right. So $85,000 is really the last stand for the bulls, right? Do not lose that level. Otherwise, you risk price coming down to the next major area of support, which puts you in bear market territory. $74,000, right? That's the top of this last range that we were trading in. Okay. So the bulls really need to step in here and start taking things seriously. Otherwise, they will surrender the count to the bears. A last thing that I want to share is that, look, we have a lot of really high impact news coming in March, right? We have the first week of March, we have labor market data, unemployment being a big deal. The next week, second week of March, we have another inflation print, core and regular CPI. All right. Last week's print, not very good. So we really need this to come in hot. And then the third week of March, well, that's when the FOMC finally meets. And what happens during this particular meeting? We had the summary of economic projections. What happened during the December summary of economic projections? They said inflation, we're scared that it's having a resurgence, which means we're going to revise our expectations next year from 3 rate cuts down to 2. The markets did not like that. You combine that with the really terrible CPI print that we got for January. If labor market data, but more importantly, if inflation data for the month of February comes in extremely negative, then I can make an educated guess as to what Jerome Powell is going to say at the next Fed meeting. I can make an educated guess as to what the FOMC participants are going to say during the next meeting. They're going to say inflation is indeed making a comeback, which means we're probably going to have to downwards revise our expectations again, which means instead of 2 rate cuts, we might go down to 0, which means no QE for anybody, which means higher for longer, which means risk assets stay depressed. Just the unfortunate reality of things. The Federal Reserve has a very huge influence on how markets act. And so just keep that into consideration, right? It's the biggest difference that we've had for this current market cycle versus other market cycles, right? QE started 2019 in September, and the money printer started, which was exacerbated when COVID hit. Money printer went burr even more so. And so that's why you had DeFi summer. That's why you had that parabolic run, because the Fed was loose with policy and money was cheap. Right now, their purse is tight. Money is expensive. Risk assets don't like that, right? And so just something to keep in mind. This is a make or break meeting in March. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here. I'm just trying to give you both sides of the equation, right? You see how bad we reacted in December when the Fed was like, sorry, I know we said 3 or more. Now we're just going to 2. How bad do you think the market is going to react if Powell's like, sorry, I know we said 2, but now we're going to 0?
Jay,
How do you think the market's going to react, bro?
Can I add something here?
Go ahead, sir.
It's interesting. If you look at the data for CPI prints over the past 4 years, interestingly enough, January has consistently been one of the highest prints of the year. I don't know what that is, why that is, but it always It always has been high the last 4 years. So I'm interested to see if that cycle continues to play out. High January, and then we start to trend back down in February and March. Like you said, it's important because if we do start to trend back down after a high print in January, then that gives the markets and Powell a little bit of breathing room, right? It gives them a little bit of breathing room. And look, I don't expect to see any cuts in March. I think it's almost a 0% chance, but I could see a cut in May if these numbers start to come back down. And I hope that we start to see what we did in the past. Again, one of the things that leads to inflation, high government spending. Powell said during the Biden administration that, look, I don't have control over policy, but yes, of course, the more money they spend, the harder it is to get inflation under control. So maybe, and look, nothing happens overnight, but maybe cutting some of this government spending will be beneficial in the long term. Now, sometimes when you make changes in quick succession, it creates some pain in the short term, right? And so we have to be open and ready for some of that potential pain, even if it's going to be good for the economy long term. And so we do really need to look at both these scenarios, I think, more now than ever. You know, another thing, and I think you might get back to the chart, I'm not sure if you will or not, but interestingly enough, we haven't even really had even a 20% pullback in this bull market, which is a bit rare, right? And we've been harping on this for many months, that we've kind of been going up without having much of a pullback compared to previous 4-year cycles. Now, do you know where the 20% pullback would be from 107,000? Well, that's the 85,000 number, Jay. And so there's some correlation there that number is a really important number to hold. Now, I again agreed, hope it doesn't go down that low, but it doesn't necessarily mean that would be bad for the market. It's what happens at that point, right? Do we create support, and do we create then a bounce back up, even if it's a riddled sideways for a little bit longer? Again, a retraction to build support, and that doesn't continue down to those 70s or 60s numbers, right? That's a little bit more worrisome. But holding strong and creating support, like right now, if we do trend up to the bull side of the scenario, and we break into new all-time highs, maybe next 60-day cycle or in the future, you know, this area where we're trending sideways is creating a lot of support, right? Yeah. And this support is going to be healthy if we continue that upwards momentum. Again, even a little bit more of a pullback to 85,000, that can still be healthy. That can still be a healthy retracement. So just because that happens, don't get afraid, right? And so we have to watch that and then see how it plays out. Yeah, because if it continues down, right, that's scary. But if it hits that 85 or 87 or 89 and it holds, creates more support, bounces back up, that's actually a really healthy sign. And that's happened a lot in previous 4-year cycles within bull markets. So this isn't something that is uncommon. It's just kind of unique because we haven't seen it this cycle. And again, this is a unique cycle because of the institutions coming in, ETFs, spot trading, leverage trading. I mean, there's so much happening that's different in this Bitcoin and crypto cycle that might even elongate this a bit more than we had thought. And we talked about this in a little bit early, Jay. We might get into it a little bit more in a bit, but Bitcoin dominance, right? Like it's kind of crazy to think that we all assumed we'd have a bit more of an alt season by now, but because Bitcoin has dominated the headlines, dominated the markets, dominated the institutions, the governments, the states, the companies, everybody is so Bitcoin focused that we have seen Bitcoin stay in that dominant position longer than we had probably anticipated. But again, it's a unique cycle, and we have to take that into consideration and realize that, look, 4-year cycle is still intact, hasn't broken, and that's actually the biggest bullish news in my opinion.
Yeah, if I were to make I spoke about this first on private with the team, and then I revealed this to the community last week, and now YouTube is going to get it. So I know people have been throwing around the possibilities of an extended cycle. And it is my personal opinion that if it were to happen, I think this cycle is actually the prime candidate for us to have an extended 4-year cycle.
Agreed.
And the reason for that being is as follows. Okay. You mentioned Bitcoin dominance. So we're going to go and take a look at some of the metrics that I like to keep an eye out on in terms of of Bitcoin and how the rest of the altcoin markets stack up against Bitcoin. So let me go ahead and pull up first and foremost total. Is this total 3? This is okay. So this is total 3. This is total 3 measured in US dollars, which is what everybody likes to see. Well, you guys know that I don't like to take a look at things predominantly in US dollars, but I like to see the health of assets compared to Bitcoin, right? So this is total 3, which means the entire crypto space. You take out Bitcoin, you take Ethereum. So this is a proxy for your entire altcoin space, right? Minus Ethereum. And you can see here that we've been down and to the right since the bottom of the bear market, which means at the very end of our bear market in November, total 3 was valued at about $22 million. And right now, post-halving year, it's currently valued at $7.7 million. So a loss against Bitcoin of about 65%. Sorry, I was saying it in millions because I was seeing M, but it's not in millions. This is in the billions. This is in the billions, right? So it's come down 65.74% against Bitcoin. This is the entire altcoin space. Even worse, let's take a look at others compared to Bitcoin, right? So this is everything below the top 10 assets by market cap. Same story. It had a peak here, right? It had its peak, right? Alt season, January 2022, right? So just after the 2021 highs, right? It extended up to 2022 in January, and then it started its precipitous decline up until now. And as you can see, we're on the weekly chart here. It just made another low against Bitcoin. And that is a loss. That is a loss of 76%. So your low cap altcoins are doing even worse against Bitcoin. And the reason for that is this. And this is something that if there's one thing that I need you guys to take home, it's that risk assets do not like it when the Fed has their purses tight. In 2019, right? QT ended here. And then you got the parabolic move into 2021. Let's go back and look at total 3 again. Total 3 against Bitcoin. When did it find the bottom last cycle? Well, find a bottom. Is this total 3 against Bitcoin? Right. Found a bottom here, 2019. Another bottom here just after the COVID crash, right? And then finally, your parabolic run to the upside. Right? So you see a common pattern here, right? Finding a bottom, 2019, QE starts. That's what. Let's look at ETH Bitcoin. Where did ETH Bitcoin find its bottom? Look at that. 2019, September. And then up and to the right. So I'm trying to paint a picture for everybody here. Risk assets like it when the Fed is loose with policy, when money is cheap. Right now, the Fed is tight with policy, money is expensive, which is why you're not getting a sustained alt season, right? Which is why the alts, in this case Ethereum, they're making new lows against Bitcoin. If there is one thing that I need you guys to take home, if you plan to be around crypto for the long term, is this. There's a reason why Bitcoin dominance is being stated, right? It hit his upper target almost at 64%. I thought it wouldn't get there. We got fucking close. And this is one of the main reasons why. Right? You're not going to hear this from a lot of people because most people on crypto Twitter are moon boys.
Yep.
Not here. You're going to get, we're bullish. We're moon boys long term, right? But we're going to give you both sides of the equation because we want you guys to make the best educated decision possible. Right? There are very few people on crypto Twitter that's talking about this, right? Ben Cohen's one of them. Which is why as much flack as he gets, right? All the people following Ben, who took his advice seriously when he started talking about this in 2022, they're heavy Bitcoin. They're sitting happy right now. All right. Because when there is uncertainty and when when monetary policy is tight, when money is expensive, capital almost always rotates back into the king, which is Bitcoin. Right. So I know everybody wants alt season, man, but my personal opinion, I don't think that happens to a sustained degree, as in like multi-month alt season. I don't think that happens until at least at the minimum, we start cutting rates again. Right. So
yeah, and I think Jay, I think it's another reason to consider this could be an elongated cycle. Like we don't know if it is, but you mentioned that a little bit ago, and we've been saying that, right? That was one of the scenarios in our sort of perfect storm theory, right? Is that this could be an elongated cycle. Now, last cycle, a lot of people said it was going to be elongated, and it ended up being muted, right? A little bit. The top ended up being muted, in my opinion, because of the COVID crisis, right? Because of the vid. And this cycle, it kind of is the opposite. Instead of that sort of crazy black swan event, we're getting a lot of small positive news, right? Of a lot of people wanting to adopt Bitcoin, be it companies, states, countries, you name it. But nonetheless, this bullish news is keeping Bitcoin dominance higher longer as well.
Yep.
So this would show that if things stay the same, and if we're going to continue to get the same type of alt seasons as we had in the past, then Bitcoin dominance staying higher longer could point to an extended season. And that is something that people need to take into consideration, and something that is a real scenario. You know, we're not the only ones saying that. There's a lot of people that are saying that. And we don't say something because we want people to buy our bags, or because you know, we're saying one thing out loud and thinking something differently. We're pretty open. We're pretty straight shooters here. Yeah. And Jay, you just said it, like, you're not hearing a lot of these potential, you know, short-term bearish scenarios on many channels. Even some people's in our chats are saying, okay, alt season's starting this week. Alt season's starting now. And, you know, it's hard for me to really choose one. Like, I have a long-term strong bullish scenario, but I always have two other scenarios in the short term, right? And which of those scenarios is going to play out? And that's where your charting and, you know, being in the Telegram can really help people in the short term, medium term, before we get into these potentially big alt seasons. Now, are we going to have a double alt season like we have on most cycles? If that's going to happen, then it almost has to be an elongated cycle. Because like I said, alt season isn't happening soon, or it hasn't happened now.
So the main point that I want to make when it comes to the extended cycle in general is as follows. Imagine this, right? Imagine this. If Jerome Powell, like, let's say we don't get any more rate cuts, right? And then at Q3, Q4 this year, things start looking up, right? Really, we get a lot of positive news on inflation, labor market is stable, unemployment is stable, crypto regulation, all that stuff is good. What happens? What do you guys think happens to risk assets if at Q4, Q3 of this year, Jerome Powell says QE for everybody? What do you think happens to the cycle if QE starts getting heavy? Money printer go burr around Q3 or Q4 of this year. That can extend your cycle. Then you get your double alt season, right? But that's like the way that I think of it, right? The way that I think the influence of monetary policy has on risk assets, that's my main argument for an extended cycle. If the Fed starts QE and goes heavy on QE latter half of this year, that can send us into an extended bull market.
Yeah, and there's a couple of good comments in the chat. Do you want to bring up that first question from Beyond All?
Yes, let's go ahead and you're talking about the one about the alts?
Yeah, because we're kind of talking about this right now.
Yeah, let me see. Ah, there it is. Hey, Degens, any hope of real bull market? If alts don't have their time, it still feels like the bear market.
Yeah, bro. If alts
Yeah.
don't have their time, then yeah, it's not going to be a good cycle for most people.
Yeah, beyond all, like we just spoke about the past like 15 or so minutes, the alt season will get their sustained rallies, not this short spurts and then give back a majority of the gains. I'm assuming you're asking about the sustained altcoin rally DeFi summer style. That's not going to happen in a sustained degree until, at the minimum, we start getting consistent rate cuts from the Fed, right? And we get consistent statements from Powell saying inflation is coming down. We're not revising our interest rate targets. We said we're going to have 3 or 4. We're keeping at 3 or 4. The certainty gives markets confidence, right? Us moving to lower rates gives the market confidence. And that's going to give the markets confidence that at a later time, like QE is going to start becoming aggressive, right? Which is that money printer, right? Because don't conflate rate cuts with QE, right? 450 points is still high.
Yeah,
that's not,
especially the last 10 years.
Especially compared to the last 10 years. Yes, sir. Bean is absolutely correct, right? We're still elevated even at 450 points with a total of 75 already being cut. We're still high. So until you get a sustained decrease, right, you're not going to get any kind of sustained alt season. That's a personal opinion, right? I'm making observations and making conclusions based on how the crypto market has acted in the past in conjunction with monetary policy. That's what I am basing this entire thesis on.
Yeah, and look, there is another side of it, right? If a lot of these cases by the SEC start getting dropped, the case against Coinbase, the case against, look, there's so many litigations out there. If these cases get dropped one by one, Richard Hart case gets dropped, like all of these together, that could create a really bullish scenario for alts as well, right? Because Bitcoin's already safe from the side of the SEC. Now, if we start to see these cases get dropped, and as Dace says in the chat, we start to get positive crypto legislation from an alt standpoint, then yes, that could also start to push prices up, push altcoins up. But again, as Jay said, monetary policy still has a big play here. But all of these things, there's still a lot of suppression happening to the altcoin market. We can't forget about what the SEC and the government has done to this space for the last 4 years, right? We're still seeing some of the effects of that. And until we start to get this more clear movement, I mean, the SEC has already said, look, our queen has already told us that most meme coins aren't even securities. Okay, if meme coins aren't even securities and they don't have jurisdiction under SEC, then gosh, what else? What does? Not much, right? If XRP isn't a security, then hell, what is? But I digress. My point is, there's a lot of positive news out there. We haven't actually seen any actions take place yet, and those actions are important for the market.
It's a lot of grandstanding.
Correct.
Yep.
Right. Until the markets actually see something hard and concise and real and visceral, then they're going to sit on the sidelines a little bit, right? Because what happens with new administrations? They promise the world and don't deliver. That's generally what happens, right? And so, yeah, I understand there's a little bit of apprehension there still. We have to take a wait and see approach with this new government to see what exactly they're going to do. Now, look, there's already been huge benefits to the crypto cycle just from a standpoint of how people view it, how the government views it, how they're talking about it. But we still need those hard rules. We still need that stuff to actually happen and be solidified before the market really gets even more bullish for the alts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actions speak louder than words.
Exactly.
The grandstanding was like, that was part of what I wanted to cover tonight on our news bit. We'll go ahead and use this as a. Do you guys have any final thoughts on this? And if not, I will use this as an opportunity for us to transition on into our first article about some fun campfire stories and things. Mrs. Producer, would you be so kind as to pull up my screen share from my computer, if you please? So for those of you guys that haven't heard, shout out to man, there's so many articles that are covering this stuff, and I'm gonna show you guys a funny thing real quick. I'm gonna share to the first tab that I brought up. So basically the long and short of it is that America has more Bitcoiners than student debt holders. So we have this fancy schmancy little chart here, shows in 2015 there was about 40 million, 42 million Americans with student loans, and I don't know, probably about 2 million Americans who hold Bitcoin. And I'm not exactly sure how they grab these numbers. I'm just going to presume that the Nakamoto project has some good stuff. Oh, Pew Research and Federal Reserve. So I'm gonna presume they have accurate data, right? It's probably like IP addresses like that are attached to things or whatever, or maybe it's volunteers. Who knows? But anyways, the number of Americans with student loans has basically stayed the same throughout the years. You've got old people paying it off, you've got young people getting new ones, more or less staying the same. And Americans who hold Bitcoin, that number is starting to go up and go up and go up. And like 2015, I can't remember if this was the bear market right before the 2017 bull, and then 2020 was obviously a bull market. So there's going to be more fancy news there. Then 2025 we're in the beginnings of a bull market now, so like obviously number go up. So it's interesting what years they chose to graph and show here. But there's some pretty fun articles about this, and the first one that I had chosen that I'm electing not to show. What's up?
Can you bring up the chart again? I thought this was hilarious. You know why that number of student loan debt holders haven't changed?
What's that?
Because when you take out student loan debt, you're basically an indentured servant to the fucking government.
Oh yes. Can never get rid of it until you pay it.
Most people were sold the fantasy, right?
Yeah.
Go to a 4-year college, go to an 8-year college. It will get you a good job, get you a good career, make you good money, right? Most people, unfortunately, they didn't go to the STEM fields, right? They didn't get marketable skills. They went into fucking interpretive
underwater basket weaving,
some shit like that at some fucking university that cost them $100,000, and then they're fucking barista at Starbucks. Not anything bad to say about baristas at Starbucks, and somebody's gonna make the fucking coffee. But at the end of the day, it's like you spent $100,000 and you can't get a job anywhere besides Starbucks, bro.
It's not paying the bills. It's not paying your loan back.
That's why you can't pay your fucking student loans off, because they sold you a false bill of goods, right? You are an indentured servant to the government for life until you pay that off. You're a slave.
I don't have any student loan debt, and I love that.
Kudos to you, bro. Congratulations. That is the amount of freedom not having. Like, I have buddies right now, man. They're young dudes, man. They're like, they're learning a trade. They got no student loan debt. And I'm like, bro, oh my God, you don't know just exactly how much of an advantage you have over so many other people, bro, not having any debt to the government. Like, that's such an amazing thing. Congratulations to you, Bean.
Yep. I put my thoughts in there that America's now got more sovereigns than slaves, which is good. Like the student loan thing, like if you can make it work, then fantastic. But for the most part, the people that get suckered into that stuff are the people that like don't have the means and don't have the know-how. And like I would venture to guess that it's a very large percentage of the total number are just totally stuck in this thing for life and basically just like government debtors and part of the system and everything.
And look, education's important. We preach educating, we preach growth, growth mindset constantly. So we're not against this. In fact, I still think going to college is good for a lot of people, but you have to go there with a purpose, and you have to go there with the right type of degree that makes it worthwhile. Like you said, you can't just go there just to get a degree. That isn't going to benefit you. You have to go there to get a degree that is going to be beneficial for your job that you're going to use long term. And maybe you don't know what that is, and so it's okay to take some time off and figure out what you want to do before you make that big decision to throw $100,000 into college. And I know that's hard for people to hear, especially because a lot of parents push their kids into this, the normal cycle of what's right. And like, oh, my kid's a failure if they don't go to college, right? Like a lot of parents still feel that way.
Dude,
they still instill, and they continue to instill this. into their
It's
kids
not
as
just
well.
the kids. It's not just the kids, Bean. The parents got honey dicked into that fucking fantasy too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like, send your kids to college. Like, we'll
Yep.
take care of them. Nah, man.
Yep.
You did no such thing. If you're in the STEM field, different story, right? Those are marketable skills.
Mhm.
But like here, bro, ASU, this is coming from somebody who like spent a significant time in academia. Thankful for the time I spent there because like, but the value that I got from university wasn't because of university. It was from the mentors that mentored me in university.
It's a
Right.
networking opportunity.
It was a networking opportunity. But most
Yep.
people, they don't go to university for that. They go there to fucking party, YOLO, till the break of dawn, right? Drink alcohol, do drugs, right? It's like they pay $100,000 to party. You could do that for free, bro.
Yep.
You ain't got to pay $100,000. And then they come out after
Yes.
6 years with no marketable skills, no social skills, can't even fucking dress for an interview, don't know how to create a CV, none of those skills. Right?
Yeah.
I would
I would add one more.
I would go ahead,
I would
Brendan.
just
Then I
add
want to
also-
highlight.
add something like lawyers, right? Like STEM field plus lawyers, something like that. But sorry, Will, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I want to Agent J, you brought up an excellent point earlier that people can go to school for free. It's not necessarily free, but Mrs. Producer, can you go ahead and pull up Hexican Lost in Asia's comment about 4 minutes after the top of the hour, finishing his bachelor degree program on the GI Bill? Because this is something very important. If you guys serve in the military, then you get access to the GI Bill, and you can go to college not necessarily for free. It does cost you 4 years of serving the government, serving the state, serving the military, serving whoever the people are that send us to go fight wars in other places and do stuff. But you can go and be a military service member, and you can get the GI Bill, which will pay for your college education. Now, it's not free because it's the taxpayers that are paying for it, right? So which means it's everyone around you. But you can go and serve your country for a little bit of time, and then you can get access to education. And that's something that I'd consider doing, like not going to college for any sort of like crazy cool learning experience, but just going because it's paid for. And it's like they pay for your housing and they pay for your tuition. So like if you want to get a job on the side, do bare minimum schooling, right? Like get like C's in the bare minimum number of classes, you basically get free rent for 3 years in a place that has a college that you just have to go to some classes for it and whatnot. So that's an option that's available to folks out there as well. I would highly recommend that nobody gets student loans unless you like have a definitive and actionable plan, like these guys had mentioned a little bit ago, to try and get into something STEM, to trying to get into something that produces a tangible result. Too many people go into this with no plan because it's like, oh, that's just the thing that you do is you go to college, and that's what people that are wealthy do. And it's like, nah, people that are wealthy, they have a plan and they pursue it. People that just kind of aimlessly wander about and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on like a dice roll, it's like, bro, you might as well take that money, go to Vegas, put it all on black, and fucking and send it. Like there's probably a better return doing that than there is going to a 4-year college and wasting a shit ton of time. Like if you want to be in debt to someone, again, not financial advice, guys, but you might have better odds, learning how to play blackjack or going in and learning craps or something. Like just stay away from the college zone. I want to point out there's a couple articles that talk about this stuff, and this was the first one that I found, right? And this is not a serious article, right? This is just something that I thought was really funny. But Bitcoin holders in America surpassed student loan borrowers in 2025. And I was reading through this article, and I was like, oh, this is freaking crazy, awesome, and super cool and everything. And then I saw that they had written, as of February 15th, 2015. Or 2025, data from CoinMarketCap indicated that Bitcoin's price was $64,000. And so I was like, wait a minute, who the fuck wrote this article? And so I thought that was really funny, but that was just that was the first article that I went through. This is the actual article for the Bitcoin ownership in the United States. And so I went through here, and they've got a whole bunch of numbers and a whole bunch of stuff, and they actually broke it all down by demographics. So what I did is I went over to ChatGPT, and then I had it, summarize the article. And it's pretty cool. There's like 65 million Americans, 28% of adults own crypto, right? Compared to 42 million with federal student loans. So again, the federal, this is the government stuff. So it's pretty cool that people are, becoming more financially sovereign and less towards the thing of slavery. And there was some other stuff here, some other cool other cool little statistics. I thought it was interesting. We got men 18 to 29, 42% invest in crypto versus about 17% of women in the same age range. And then we got the Asians, right? We got Jay's people over here. 28% of Asians. Yep.
28%.
Yeah, bro.
That's crazy. Almost a third of the demographic is my fucking people, bro.
Yeah, dude.
Yo,
yep.
Where the Jews at, bro? Where the Jews at?
It doesn't have. I don't know if it probably has Jews lumped in with whites would be my guess. But yeah, the blacks and Hispanics we got at 20%, and then 14% of whites, and then 23% of upper income households invest versus 14% of lower income households. So, like, there's a whole bunch of cool little stats in here that was reflected. So I'm just kind of scrolling through it and everything, but it's like basically, Trump pro crypto, not in favor of debt forgiveness and only supporting targeted relief. Then Kamala basically wants to forgive everyone's debt and have some free college stuff. And it's just like there's interesting a bunch of interesting stuff that was in this article, but those are some fun and fancy little numbers I wanted to throw out. 42% of dudes, 28% of Asians, 14% white people. There's more wealthy people investing than there are lower income people. So it's just like some interesting stuff for the folks at home to think about. Any thoughts from you, Brendan, or you, Agent Jay, before I pull us on over into the next area that I wanted to talk about, which is basically just all of the different institutions that are buying Bitcoin and stuff. We'll linger on this a little bit longer if you guys have any thoughts, but that's where I want to take it next.
Yeah, I'm always curious how they pull numbers like 65.7 million Americans own cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
I'm always curious, right? Because are they just taking it from people that said that they own cryptocurrency on their tax returns? Right? Is that where they're putting it? Like I always wonder where they get the numbers from. And are they just saying people that are connected to exchange? Now, also keep in mind that most of the Americans that own crypto own a small percentage, like a few coins. Yeah. Okay. They're not the type of people that we are.
Satoshi.
Right. Yeah. They own a fraction of a Satoshi, or they own 50 Dogecoin. I have so many friends that own like 50 Dogecoin. I'm exaggerating, right? But they own a few Dogecoins, and they own like 0.00001 Ethereum that they got on Cash App. And then, I have another friend that has like $5 in crypto on Venmo from their crypto from the rewards that they just put into crypto. So it's like most of the people don't truly own any crypto, even of these 65 million. And so the people that are listening to this channel are far above and far ahead of the normal American, obviously. So, it's great that even if you own a small amount of crypto, look, you at least have a little bit of skin in the game. You're at least like have some sort of thought process there. So I think that that's great. I just hope that people, do the research and dig deeper to understand the benefits of this space, because not only from a technological standpoint, but everything that we talk about on a regular basis is just incredibly, incredibly important.
Yeah. My last thoughts on it is I bet the 28% of Asians, I bet they're all in Tron.
Or BNB.
Or BNB. Oh, I mean, CZ's Canadian, technically.
Yeah, fair.
They got Glassnode, Chainalysis, and Into the Block. I remember looking into these specific names when I was helping Tracker with some work he was doing a while back. But I suppose that this is how they do a lot of the public blockchain data for estimating active wallets linked to users. So it could be that there's folks like us who own like tens and hundreds and maybe not I don't know about thousands of wallets, but like how easy is it to spool up a wallet and get something started? So like I'm not sure exactly how much we could I suppose I'm just going to throw out like estimate maybe a third. Like this is over it by about 1/3 of the value, right? So like even if we chop this down to like 45, say they're 30% incorrect, that's still like about equal to the number of Americans with federal loans. So it's like
it's positive, right? Nonetheless, it's positive.
Yeah.
And if they're pulling that data from Glassnode and Chainalysis, that like I'm pretty confident, because again, you're pulling the data from the blockchain. Yes, could it be could it be one person having multiple wallets? Because could it be everybody holding fractions of Satoshis? Yeah, that's all true, right? That's all reasonable like assumptions. But again, at least if you tell me you're pulling the data from Chainalysis or from Glassnode, then I can be confident that you're not just like you're not just making shit up, right?
Yeah. I think
It's
that's
an
a
interesting topic. And like, if we extrapolate this out, how many Americans or wallets do you expect to see in 4 years, right? Like this essentially where you were looking at, Will, was like every 5 years, I think, right? It was 2015, 2020, 2025 on that chart or whatever.
yeah.
Where are we going to be in 5 years from now? Do you think that we're going to be like, are we going to double this? We're going to be at 125 million?
I think double's an understatement.
I'm
saying like that's probably minimum.
Yeah. I think minimum.
But like, we went from, I forgot what the number was 5 years ago, probably half this, right? But with the adoption that's taking place and going to be taking place, we could see an incredible jump in the next 4 years. Incredible jump, which would push numbers up, go up, which I like.
We do like number go up. All right. So this is all I got for this. Mrs. Producer, I'm going to go ahead and end the share screen for this. And then I've got another share screen that I'm going to do. I'm going to pull up Telegram and we will go through. There's a whole bunch of places that are doing stuff having to deal with Bitcoin and things. So let's see. That looks like about a good size right there. Apologies, we can't see. I tried to zoom in on this, but it's just not working. So I wonder if I go like that. Nope, that does not make it zoom in.
You can't control zoom?
Not on Telegram, no. Maybe if I oh, okay, there we go. If I bring it down like that and then I change the aspect ratio. Oh, there we go. All right, cool beans. So here we go, right? So we've got North Carolina considering a bill to invest in, and I pulled this. This is all from the last week, right? So North Carolina considering bill to invest public funds into Bitcoin ETFs. Tesla officially disclosing they own a shit ton of Bitcoin, right? Japan's Metaplanet planning to acquire Bitcoin. MicroStrategy, they're always fucking buying Bitcoin, so that's par for the course. Japanese Federal Services wait, never mind. Tax cuts for Bitcoin. So that one's a little bit different. University of Austin thinking about buying some fucking Bitcoin. This dude, Dan Moorhead, right? Some CNBC.
That's
billionaire talker guy.
That's one of the largest funds for Bitcoin, right? He's one of the OGs. Dan Moorhead, yeah.
They've got a shit ton of Bitcoin, and they're talking about the U.S. in gold and talking about Bitcoin. Missouri. Representative Ben Keithy proposing a bill to add Bitcoin to the state's strategy, right? Japanese mobile game studio, they're planning to buy a bunch of fucking Bitcoin. Some Galaxy Digital guy talking about it could appear on the U.S. government, right? But that's been in talks.
Big player in the States. Yep.
They're talking about like within 6 months. Again, this is all lip service. This is all different people saying the same thing over and over again. Different entities, different companies, different states, different whatever. But like this list scrolls on, right? So this talking about Binance's holdings and Ethereum holdings. But Minister of Thailand proposing to turn Bitcoin into Phuket, into a Bitcoin sandbox. Hong Kong confirming that they can be used for proof of wealth for investment, right? There's VanEck.
Will, if you go back, that one's actually very cool because if you invest enough for investment visa, you need to be able to prove wealth, right? And so Bitcoin and Ether is positive, right? What are we talking about? Like with the SAP at 121 and all of these things happening in our government, it's negative, right? You hold it on the negative side of your balance sheet. They're saying, no, this is proving you have real wealth. And that's going to be important for the United States when that happens too, right? Like that's a real visceral change in crypto. And when that happens, I think that's really big news. That's a bullish news. But I think this one's super cool. Anyone want to move to Hong Kong? That's pretty cool.
It's expensive as hell. It's nice there.
For sure.
Clean. It's hella clean. It's beautiful. I got family in Hong Kong, so they like it.
I hear good things. I haven't been.
This right here, we were talking about this, I think, a little bit in the green room. I'm not sure if this was the oh shoot, it doesn't. Hang on, how do I switch to man? All right, hang on. I'm gonna try something here, Mrs. Producer, where I stop sharing this screen and I'm going to go to share this because it shows up as a different window when you open an image. So let's see if that pulls up. You guys see that pretty well? Okay, yeah. So this is the this is a list.
Easier, but yeah.
What's that?
If you zoom in a little bit, it might be a little easier, but
Yeah, is that zoomed in at all?
a little bit, yeah.
Let me see if I control. Ooh, I can zoom in quite a bit. Oh my goodness. Fiddlesticks. What have I done? There we go. Okay. So, anyways, as you guys can see, like we've got Oklahoma, Massachusetts, Wyoming, Ohio, New Hampshire, Utah, Texas, North Dakota, Iowa, Illinois, Kentucky, Missouri, Maryland, New Mexico, South Dakota, Montana, and North Carolina. And they're all they've all got these little bills being introduced. There's a ton of states that are looking to buy, right? So this is the thing that we were talking about, or similar to the thing we were talking about in the green room. It's like
the heat map.
All this lip service.
Yep.
Go ahead, Jay.
It's the heat map of states that are either proposing, have proposed, in process, or already completed their Bitcoin bills.
Yep. I like we got Montana with 516. Good job, Montana. I'm proud of you. But yeah, a total of 23 billion, as it says here down at the bottom, 240,000 Bitcoin. And this is all I don't know. Okay, we've got the status bar right here. So committee introduced, failed, committee, failed. I don't see any that have passed all the way through. But yeah, that's another, like, this is one more thing for us to slap on the campfire story of, like, everyone and their mother is talking about buying Bitcoin. Mr. Producer, I'm going to close this one out and I'm going to bring up my other screen share.
Can I add one thing to that? So that chart is only states that want to invest in Bitcoin reserves. That doesn't include things in states like Florida, for example. The State Board of the Administration is requested a report to look into the feasibility, risk, and potential benefits of directing some of the state's retirement money into cryptocurrency, into Bitcoin, etc. So, there are retirement funds and other things within the states that are also looking to procure potentially Bitcoin to hold on their balance sheet outside of just state reserves, right? So there's a lot of people looking into this. Oh yeah. This list goes on. Like we got Canada, we got Texas, we got and then this is what you were talking about, right? This the list of states. Yeah. It's like there's so many people that are talking about wanting to buy more Bitcoin and fucking even GameStop. GameStop is looking to buy some more fucking Bitcoin, right? So we've got the apes and all those degenerates that's what like pushed me down the rabbit hole of cryptocurrency was back when the GME stuff was happening. But like, Bank of Montreal, Abu Dhabi's sovereign wealth fund, like there's tons and tons and tons of like people and places and things that are talking about investing in the new digital gold, into the new assets. So like with these prices being what they are, with us going through the cycles the way that we are, I don't know if you guys remember Axis Alive, but he had a theory that like this might be the Bitcoin cycle where it just kind of keeps chugging up and chopping sideways and chugging up and chopping sideways, and we don't have a dip for a crazy long time, and like it turns into that extended cycle that we were talking about earlier. But like there's a lot of lip service going on right now, and I'm very excited to see. And I would encourage the folks at home, like, pay attention to what countries are doing, to what states are doing, to what businesses are doing. Don't necessarily listen to them talking about this stuff. Like that's what a lot of this legislation is. It's just chit chat. It's chatter. It's talk. It's campfire stories. But like it is the beginning. The things start as stories. They start as thoughts. They turn into actions. And then, some of them, they go on and they win, and they bring our bags up, and they turn into some cool market sentiment. But that's all I got with this screen share, Mrs. Producer. I'm going to go ahead and take this one down. Can I add one thing to that as well?
Yes, please do.
Let's keep in mind that most of these bills aren't going to pass, right?
Oh, for sure.
But these are like you said, the start of the conversation. It has to start somewhere. There has to be, a building up of interest here. And if it doesn't start with a conversation, if it doesn't start with a bill, then you can't even talk about it. So they're bringing these bills to the forefront, even knowing that they might not pass in some of these states, but it still gives them an opportunity to talk about it in front of everybody. And that's big, right? That's important to have that conversation, to have that discussion. And I saw a state today that one of these bills already didn't pass. I forget what the state was, but it came across my newsfeed briefly. But so just keep that in mind. Even if none of these pass, that's okay. It's just positive momentum, right? It's still more in the people's forefront of their minds and on their conversations. So
Yeah, I'm with Will here, right? The lip service is nice, but I care more about action. And even though price might not necessarily be reflecting, at least in the altcoin space, all of the positive news that's coming out for crypto, every single day you're getting dozens upon dozens of different entities buying more Bitcoin, right? And so like that's only telling me one thing. It doesn't matter to me if this bull market is over already, right? And we get the top that we're going to get, and we're going to correct a little bit more down. I don't care if we correct back down to 70,000, we correct back down to 40, or we get 30,000 again. Like I wake up every morning and I'm like, I need more Bitcoin. Like that's my mentality, because I see how the most powerful entities in the world are acting, and they're accumulating more Bitcoin. Every single time we have a massive drop, right? These entities are buying. They're flushing retail, entities are buying. And so I care more about action than I do about anything else. And their actions telling me that they're taking this asset class seriously. So I wake up every single morning, I'm like, I need to work more because I need more Bitcoin.
they want to buy your bags.
Yeah.
They do want to buy your bags. They want to buy your bags when you sell. They want to trick you into selling, so that way they can buy it, and that way later on, when you're sad and crying and the price of Bitcoin is much, much higher than it is right now, if it goes that way, but if you watch what they do and do the opposite of what they say, then you'll do pretty well a lot of the time. Do that. What is that? Inverse Jim Cramer.
Yeah.
Oh man. I think he was right about the Super Bowl, though, wasn't he? That recently happened. I'm pretty sure he was correct about that one. So Jim Cramer occasionally strikes gold. But those are my thoughts on all that stuff. Mrs. Producer, let's take a moment here and do a quick break and do some motherfucking chat shoutouts. We've had a lot of people hop on in here with some fantastic thoughts of some of the things that we've been covering. So we'll go ahead and say hi to the new people and go on over some of the things that a lot of the folks who've been with us for a while have been saying. So if you do not mind, Mrs. Producer, first up, we've got Chad Donner Schwanz. Hello, fellow based crypto bros. Hello to you too, sir. It's good to see you, Chad. Welcome, welcome. Our ripped Pepe astronaut on the moon, bringing us, letting us know how cool and based we are. Next up, we got Mr. M Rock Jockey, or Mr. Ock Jockey. Good evening, Degen gents. It's good to see you, M Rock or Mr. Ock. Good to see you, broski. Welcome to the stream. Glad that we could have you with us. Next up, we've got a good friend of ours, Mr. Angry Twinkie. Good evening, DRT people. I got to give Mr. Angry Twinkie his flowers. He actually was the inspiration for one of the articles that I chose today about Ron Paul and Rand Paul and encouraging Elon Musk to go and check out the gold reserves and go audit the Fed, or not the Fed, but go audit the federal gold reserves that are being hidden over at Fort Knox. Shout out to Ron Paul. Shout out to Rand Paul. Ron Paul, the OG libertarian, and Elon Musk theoretically going and auditing the Fort Knox gold reserves. That would be an interesting thing to see fail. I'm not sure what to make of this, but Mr. Angry Twinkie was the one that brought this news article to my attention. So shout out to Mr. Angry Twinkie. Good to see you, amigo. Welcome to the stream. If we got time, we might go through that later. But next up, we got Mr. Hexagon lost in Asia. Well, a lot of motherfuckers are getting laid off in the purge right now. Yes, absolutely. There are a lot of people. Unemployment is much worse than we think. I'm currently unemployed. Right? Ooh. There we go. Yeah. In between tower jobs. Well, I mean, like I've got my systems in place from making a ton of tower money, and then doing the cryptocurrency stuff, with like yield farms and stablecoin farms and things of that nature. I've been doing just fine in these several months that I've been off. So it's like I moved up to New Hampshire. I've done like a couple tower jobs here and there, but like I'm doing okay because I set myself up. But yeah, there is a lot of unemployment going on right now. So that
could affect Powell's decision too, right? If we start to see a big increase in unemployment, and we start to see a really softening of the labor market, that could push Powell to cut rates sooner, or at least to start cutting rates sooner. Not to get like to that super quantitative easing as Jay was talking about earlier, but at least starting to want to cut faster than he might have decided. Yeah. Not that he might have not wanted to because of the labor market, because that will make a big difference, and it will push him into cutting if he has to.
Yeah, ideally, the thing is, whether Hexicon's right about the unemployment rate or not being higher than what it is, at the end of the day, what matters is the rate that the Fed is seeing stable, because that's what they want. They don't want it going high. They don't want it going low. High means labor market is like weakening significantly, and they might have to cut sooner rather than later. If it's starting to decrease significantly, well, inflation might be another issue. Because that means labor market is expanding, which means people are spending, and so they wanted to stay at that low 4% range, right? Because that range, remember, that number is pre-COVID numbers, which is theoretically healthy unemployment. So if it's stable at 4%, 4.1, 4.2, 4.0, like 4.1, like if it hovers around there, Fed is happy.
It starts to pick up to 5, and especially if it gets close to 6, that's when they really start to worry.
Yep. That would not be a good scenario. But what would be a good scenario, we've got a couple more chat shoutouts we're going to cover here. Mrs. Producer, can you go ahead and bring up Mr. Smoothbrain's comment? We've got Smoothbrain joining us, aka the Boomstick. Hit the like, Degens. Absolutely, everyone. Remember to smash that like button, like that smash button, all that good stuff. We love our vanity metrics. I don't know if it helps, but I like to see the number go up. So there we go. You guys can do your part to make the DRT number go up.
Can go up.
Yeah, one number goes up. Our view counts and our likes and our loves and all the awesome subscribers and people joining the Degen Roundtable Telegram. Mrs. Producer, Mr. Hexagon Lost in Asia at 20 after the top of the hour had a comment. Yes, Thailand still doesn't let me use cryptocurrency as a real wealth statistic for a retirement visa. Hopefully it opens up soon. So yes, that would be pretty cool if Southeast Asia starts doing all the crazy cool awesome stuff. So I'm stoked to see all of that, and I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that comment actually to transition us over into the next thing, which again was brought up by Mr. Angry Twinkie. So, Mrs. Producer, I'm trying to find my share screen right now, and I think I've got it. Aha! There we go. Okay, if you wouldn't mind pulling up my screen share, we've got from Gold Telegraph. They had a conversation with Dr. Ron Paul. So this is like the original gentleman who's always talking about end the Federal Reserve. Go check all the gold in Fort Knox and everything. And Dr. Paul actually, when he was a representative, when he was someone in Congress, he actually went over to Fort Knox and he did a little checkup there. But that was in like 1971, I want to say. But they had a conversation with him here, and you guys can go and check it out. By the way, I highly recommend it. It's it's Gold Telegraph conversation with Dr. Ron Paul, and it's pretty darn cool. Let me see. Did I have an X post? I thought for sure I had an X post about this. Hang on, fellas. Okay, the Daily News article. All right, so we're going to switch over, or excuse me, the Daily Mail. So, son of a bitch. I hate these fucking things. All right, I can't get rid of it, so we're just gonna pretend that it's not there. And I'm gonna scroll in. God damn it! All right, so up here, Senator Ron Paul is inviting Elon Musk to come to his state of Kentucky to review the largest reserves of gold in the United States. A Libertarian X account with 2 million followers asked the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, to set his sights on Fort Knox to make sure the U.S. supply of gold is still in its reserves. So one of the things that's a concern, a considerate, or something is that we're missing a bunch of gold in the over there in Fort Knox. Apparently, it'd be great if Elon Musk could take a look inside Fort Knox just to make sure that the 4,500 tons of gold is actually in there. There's been concerns that I'm going to go ahead and switch back to the more fun X tab instead, because I really don't like those little things. But I was reading a couple articles about all the gold and all the possibility. Oh, okay, never mind. Haragon. We got one. We actually got one from the New York Times. So that one does not show me. There we go. We're gonna pull this one up. Bam Balam, and there we have them.
New York
the
Post,
talking heads.
New York Times.
Or yeah,
Very
excuse
different.
me, New York
Very
Post.
different.
Yes. Man, one of these articles I had pulled up earlier they had the pictures of gold, like gold bars cut in half with the tungsten on the inside. For those of you guys that don't know, tungsten and gold's density are like almost identical. So, and this is a campfire story I'm telling here, right? None of this is proven. Nobody knows what's inside Fort Knox. The last time it was legitimately audited was in like 1953, and then Ron Paul did he did like a walkthrough where they opened a door and they're like, hey, there's a whole bunch of gold inside here, and the rest of the doors look just like this room, so everything's good. But they didn't like sit there and drill into the bars and like determine like, hey, is the entire bar gold? Like there was no like legitimate audit. It was basically just like a big walkthrough and nothing of substance. Yeah, here we go. The first tour of the facility came in 1947, where journalists and a congressional delegation were allowed in following claims that the stores had been looted. The vaults were opened again in 2017 during the last Trump administration for Steve Munchin to view them, but I don't know if they actually if it was just a viewing or anything. But okay, yeah, he attempted to get inside again in 2010, but man, my numbers were all wrong here. But essentially, this is one of those fun little campfire stories for us to sort of kind of wind the show down on. But what are you guys' thoughts on the federal gold reserve getting a nice little audit? Do you think it would be good? Do you think it would be bad? Do you think it would lead to panic? Is it full of gold? Is it all campfire stories? What are you guys' thoughts?
Well, Jay, you want to go first?
Yeah, I think I had a brief discussion with the group earlier about this. I thought it was very interesting. I'm all for transparency, which is why I like crypto, right? Because you can, if you wanted to audit your bank's crypto holdings, assuming that they're not on JP Morgan's Onyx blockchain, which is private, which is, how I feel about that.
Yep.
I want them to do the audit. I think it would be good, because then at least you give the people confidence. Okay, we do have a gold reserve, right? And everything is in there. I would also like them to be audited just for entertainment purposes.
Yeah.
A very common phobia of people is being audited by the IRS, right? And I think a lot of these government individuals probably have gone through their entire lives thinking that they probably wouldn't be exposed to that kind of scrutiny, like in the way that businesses and regular folks are. And I really want to see them squirm.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be a significant degree of accountability there, and responsibility that must be taken if the reserves aren't up to par with what they're telling us they're at. So again, right, as from a responsibility and accountability aspect, and a large degree from an entertainment point of view, I really want to see these people squirm. So yeah, do the audit.
Well, I'm gonna take the other side of it. No, I don't think we need to audit Fort Knox, because what's the benefit that can come from it? Right now, people think there's gold there, and our government is running off it like there's gold there. If we audit it and there's a fraction of the gold or a third of the gold, or you name the percentage that we had thought in there, the entire United States economy collapses, and that fucks everybody. And no, I don't think that's good. Am I for transparency? Am I for knowing what's real? Yes. But I just can't find a scenario that there's a positive to take out of them auditing Fort Knox. I'm trying to rack my brain and think, what could be positive? Okay, we have all of the gold in there. Okay, that's what we thought. It's just kind of like status quo.
Yeah,
the only thing that could happen is huge potential downfall of the United States economy. And that's something that could wreck the United States completely. And that worries me more than anything. So let's wait maybe 20 years till I don't need to worry about it so much anymore. And then you can audit it all.
This one's a personal philosophy. I would rather not live in ignorance, one, but I do see your point. Do the audit. Don't publicize the results. If it's not there, heads need to roll. You don't have to publicize it, but do it.
Yeah.
Sure, but Doge not publicizing something, I just don't believe that's possible. So if that's gonna happen, it needs to have some really fucking tight luck ship, right? Which I just don't believe can happen, especially in today's society. So that's kind of what I'm worried about.
I think that it would
But
be
it's an
funny as
interesting
hell.
question, and I agree with you,
Oh,
Jay.
it'd be
It's just from the
hilarious.
standpoint of like transparency and how things should be run, should be open to the people. But I'm just afraid of the consequences. It's like opening Pandora's box.
Yeah. If it's this might be just one of those secrets that just like fades off into nothingness over a long period of time. It's like there's this
transitioned
little
all the gold into Bitcoin.
there was this meme I saw where it was like the people that work at Fort Knox and they're all wearing like Gucci and they're all like iced out with like, rings and diamonds and everything. And they're like, oh yeah, all the gold is still in here at Fort Knox. And it's just like the implication, that the people that are running the show, whoever they might be, maybe not necessarily like the privates with rifles standing outside, but like the people that go in there and count the bars and report back or whatever. It's like, maybe one slips out here or there, or something goes away. I think I'm inclined to go with like the chaotic neutral approach here. And I want the gold to be audited, and I want it to fail the audit, just to see, not like just so that we can see just like how much of a farce the whole thing is. Like, if the emperor's not wearing any clothes and everyone's saying like, oh yeah, the emperor, you're fucking beautiful, and then the kid like laughs at him, and it's like the whole stack of cards comes tumbling down. It's like, I think that it's almost inevitable, and it would be super funny, if not terrible for the world. I think that you're right, Brendan. I think that it would be a terrible, horrible thing for us to find out that the emperor indeed does not have any clothes and they've been lying to us this whole time. But it's like, I think that that's something that like everyone should be aware of. There's probably people that still got their heads stuck in the sand, much like an ostrich, scared of the predators, and just like, oh yeah, the government's got the gold. But it would be good to see like, oh, the government actually doesn't have anything. The whole thing's a big farce. Let's build something better. Let's have something that is, like, we don't have to audit the blockchain, right? It's there. We can see where the stuff is. So if the government's got like a public, .btc address, or if the US government spins up a Nostr account and everyone can send their satoshis off to daddy government or something, then like it would be a much funner world, and there would be no need for us to question like, oh snap, is this real? Is it fake? Are we living in La La Land? Like, does it exist? Like, what is the government even going to do with all this gold? Just going to sit there and it's just going to print money into oblivion.
Well,
so like,
does the gold matter? In reality, does the gold matter at all?
No, I don't. I think it matters in that it's not being bought and sold on the open market or something. I don't know. Maybe the gold has like, maybe there's like notes against the gold that are being traded around, much like the original like money stuff was. I don't know what purpose it serves, unless it's like, hey, we've got gold to, I don't know, buy crackers in case we all get really, really hungry. We can all buy some biscuits or something, right? But it's like,
yeah. Can you imagine? So
what's up?
I'm gonna entertain Will's chaotic neutral route for funsies. Imagine if the U.S. government was basically like a proxy of Sam Bankman-Fried's FTX, where he was like, everybody's funds are safe, but we were actually using the gold to leverage trade and be degenerate.
Bro, like, that was one of the comments in the Elon Musk thread where somebody tagged Elon in it, and Elon was like, surely they audit it every year, or they check it every year. And they're just like, there's like loads and loads of comments, and one of them was like FTX and the like, yeah, people are degen gambling trading on all their like their citizens or their customers' funds. And it's like, bro, like that, like, who's to say that the government, like, they're probably doing that already. Money printer go burr. We'll send some foreign aid over to Ukraine. Half of it'll get lost in the process. It's like, I don't even know where half of the money went, or where half of these arms that we're selling them went, or something. Like, I'm sure it's being used as a big degen lottery gambling thing for toppling regimes and like, buying S&P 500 or whatever. I'm positive that's happening, but it'd be funny to see it. That's my 2 cents anyways.
Yeah, and Black Label Expat, he says the right thing. It's a psychology, right? It matters from a psychology standpoint. In reality, it doesn't matter because we're not on a gold standard. But there's this idea that gold and having it in reserves is like is safe. But in reality, it doesn't affect our Fed or our money printer or anything in any way or any relevant way. But nonetheless, it's an interesting topic. And again, let's just leave that there and leave it there forever.
That's not a bad plan.
Never open it.
Mrs. Bruce, I'm gonna go ahead and bring down the screen share. We don't need to need to look at this anymore. But yeah, that was one of the fun little articles. There's a couple more that I thought about touching, but we're coming up on the end of our segment, so I'll just go ahead and read off some of the stuff that we were thinking about talking. Yeah, what's up?
Can I just read something that Battlehard Sniper said in our
please do
Telegram chat? He said the issue is also with Aussie reserves held at the London Gold Exchange. Perhaps USA has the same issue as well, but there's noted tampering of records of bar serial numbers at the London Exchange. So that's worrisome for us, for the people in Australia, because that's who's holding their gold.
Yeah, it's all a big fugazi, man. It's all a bunch of deceit and lies, and one government taking advantage of another, and people that are in charge of the activities, the milking and diming and dude, if I was guarding, I'm no better than whoever those guys are that are guarding all those gold bars, and there's serial numbers tampering. That'd be so fucking tempting to just I'm just gonna take a knife in and just kind of slice an edge off of one of these gold bars, and then much like Johnny Cash in that one song about building a car one piece at a time from the Ford thing over the span of his lifetime. It's I totally get all these people that are taking little bits and pieces of these governments and different people fucking up records and all chasing their own power, but it's it shouldn't be happening. It should not be the case that Australia's gold being held in London is getting tampered with by UK officials, right? This is the reason that blockchain is so great and so awesome, is because we can self-custody our own things. We can be our own bank. We can there's provable ownership isn't the right word, but there's provable ability to move things from one Excel spreadsheet to another Excel spreadsheet, right? And we don't need a big giant fortress with people with guns to hold it, and we don't need a whole bunch of trucks and forklifts to come and pick up all this gold and send it off to another place. All of this stuff is it's antiquated grandpa technology. And so I don't know, I'm kind of going off on a rant here. Go ahead, Brendan, what do you got?
Maybe it's another reason why the United States wants to buy Greenland. We need all those unmined resources, including gold.
That would be pretty cool. That would be cool.
Yeah,
We'd call it Red, White, and Blue Land.
The Chinese have been doing it with Africa for a long time, man. So catch up.
Belt and Road Initiative, man. Yeah, we should start buying more countries and doing other cool things. Real quick though, it's let's go ahead and move to close here, gentlemen. I'm gonna go ahead and read off some of these other little headlines we didn't get to cover, just so the folks at home can, if you're interested in learning about some of the stuff that went on, you can go and check it out yourselves, and then we will go ahead and tell the folks where we can be found and what we've got going on in the near future. So some of the things we didn't cover: Michael Saylor and President Bukele had dinner down in El Salvador earlier, so that was pretty cool. President Javier Milei of Argentina, I don't know if he was the one that launched a coin and it did some crazy things, but there was some stuff where he was talking about a coin, and then there was some terrible stuff going on. So this just goes to whether he launched it or not, the thing for people to pay attention to is be careful about people that are not crypto people talking about a cool thing, and then it just happens to pump, and then the inevitable dump comes along. It's the same thing with influencers and celebrities launching their own little meme coins. It's most often they're not in charge of the actual cryptocurrency transactions happening, and then they get rugged, and it's their fucking public image that's ruined as a result of this. So so this was another big thing that happened. Agent Jay, did you have some information on this you wanted to comment on real quick?
Javier did not create the meme coin. He
Correct.
did tweet positively about it, but then when it erased billions of dollars of market cap within less than 24 hours,
Yep.
He tried to circle it back and tried to defer responsibility again. I didn't like that part. I'm like, bro, just own up
Yep.
to it. You fucking tweeted about it. Don't try and bait and switch people into like, yeah, it's this like government. I'm like, bro, you tweeted about it. Own up to it. You're the fucking president. Right?
Yep.
Don't try to push your responsibilities off to somebody else, right?
Yes.
Right? If that's the case, then give your fucking Twitter to somebody else. Give it to your marketing team because you did it. We all saw it. And believe me, man, a lot of people hang on your word, and I guarantee you they entered and got wrecked.
This is why it's like really important to be very deliberate. If you're like a person who commands attention, to be very deliberate about the things that you talk about. Because like, you know, you're correct, Jay. He should own his actions. And like he should also realize like, hey, if I talk about this thing, then, you know, it's going to have some traction, and then it's almost inevitably going to rug because some people that weren't rich are now incredibly rich, and they're going to capitalize on that opportunity. They're going to pull the liquidity. They're going to sell all their shit, and it's just going to be a big fucking nightmare. So,
dude,
like that was one of the things that
was one of the worst things too. Like a lot of the market makers, they were just pulling liquidity.
Yeah.
Right. they just literally just rugged the liquidity from other. So like people had like. As it came down, the liquidity started getting thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner. So it's like people were like dealing with crazy slippage.
Yeah,
this is bad.
It's really important to know the liquidity of the things that you're buying. If you're in more like if you're in something that doesn't have liquidity, it doesn't matter how much notional money you own if you can't like do anything with it, right? So this is why like Bitcoin is one of the best. This is why Ethereum is one of the best. Binance. There's a ton of things. The gold. Well, I don't know how the gold liquidity works, but like pay attention to the liquidity pools of the altcoins and the shit coins and the meme coins that are circulating around there. One of the things that we were talking about recently was all the Hex liquidity being pulled, all the core coins on Pulse Chain liquidity being pulled, right? There's theoretics that like when liquidity gets pulled, it's easier to pump the price, but on the flip side of that token, it's way easier to dump the price down to zero when liquidity pulls. The thicker the liquidity, the more solid that price is going to be, you know. So pay attention to the percentages of liquidity. So anyways, to continue on with my little article reading here, we've got two more. So Tether there's some rumor that they may need to sell a lot of their Bitcoin in response to some legal action that is some proposed US stablecoin rules. And this was analysis from a JP Morgan guy, so you know, someone who's not terribly fond probably with Tether and the stablecoin, because Tether is not owned by JP Morgan. So there was some drama going back and forth there between JP Morgan and the Tether guys. So that was fun to see. And then finally, MasterCard is beginning tokenizing transactions. So they got 30% of their transactions in 2024 tokenized. So I don't necessarily know what that means, but that was an article that I saw earlier. So pay attention to traditional finance companies doing traditional finance things and bringing it over to blockchain and seeing what they can, what sort of problems they can solve with that sort of new stuff going on in the future. So real like tokenized real world assets, stable coins, property management, NFTs as like, you know, concert tickets and things. Like pay attention to what's going on in the world around you. Is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. It's a tool it's a new tool that now exists. So pay attention to these things, do with them what you will. And that's all that I've got for tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Will Stevenson. You guys can find everything that I do or all of my socials rather from my Web3 address, will.pls.fyi, my Facebook, my Twitter, my Instagram, my Telegram, everything, even my old link tree that has a whole bunch of other stuff on it. You can find it linked at will.pls.fyi. As far as cool stuff that's going on in the near future, we skipped book club this last Friday because it was Valentine's Day, so next Friday is hopefully going to be the book club, and I'm not positive. I got to get with Zenith on this to confirm. But if Zenith is not going to be doing the book club for next Friday, then I will find a book for you guys, and I'll make sure to announce it in our Degen Roundtable Telegram. As far as other stuff, you guys can expect this show doing the same thing that we always do. Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays, we stream from 8 p.m. Eastern to 10 p.m. Eastern generally, but we always start at 8 p.m. Eastern. So you guys can find us there Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. Mr. Brendan will have more information for us for our next guest that we will have coming on soon. I don't know much of the information about that, so I will defer to him. If we have a special guest on Wednesday, then that's what we'll be doing. And if we don't have a special guest on Wednesday, then we will be doing a Whiskey Wednesday, and you guys will get to hear all sorts of cool, fun, and awesome stories, and we'll hang out with folks in the community and see what's going on in the area with everyone. But that's what we've got going on for the Degen Roundtable officially in the near future. As far as stuff going on with me, I'm up here in the Pacific Northwest. I'm hanging out in the great, beautiful city of Port Angeles, Washington. So if there's any Degens, I know there's a pretty good Hexagon community up here in the Pacific Northwest. So I will be reaching out to them if I have time and seeing what they're doing. But other than that, you guys can catch me down at the Pulse Chain Conference down in Las Vegas, March 6th through 9th. Make sure you guys get your tickets if you haven't done so already. Get your hotels booked. It's starting to get expensive. So that's all that I've got. Mr. Agent J, where can the folks find you, and what have you got going on in the near future, good sir?
You can find me on X at _P90Hex.
We lost you, Jay. You muted there.
Great. I don't know how that happened. Instagram, agent _J Schroth. On X at _P90Hex. I don't spend a lot of time on there. So if you want to reach me, the best place that you're going to be able to find me is if you scan the QR code, jump into our Telegram community, where you will find a thriving, hyper competent group of degenerates just like us, just like yourself, that we share information, we lean on each other, and I'm in there. I streamed about at least once every single day last week, sometimes 2 days, because
My God,
of stuff going on the Hex side of things, and so we had a lot of fun doing that analysis, and we're just going to keep it going. So if you want to get a hold of me, that's where you'll find me most active. So like the damn video, comment, subscribe, scan the QR code, jump into the Telegram chat. Thank you, as always, for those of you joining us here live, and for those of you who will watch us on the replay. We know that time is your most valuable asset, so we do appreciate that you spend some of that time here with us at the Degen Roundtable on this wonderful Sunday evening. I think the All-Star weekend, I saw the slam dunk competition yesterday, so I think the All-Star game is actually tonight, which I'll probably catch after this. You could be doing that while you're spending the time here with us, talking crypto, shooting the shit. So thank you once again, Bean.
Yep. I could care less about the NBA All-Star game because it generally sucks. The only quality All-Star weekend that's happening is in hockey right now. Instead of having an All-Star weekend, they're having 4 hockey nations in a four-team tournament. In the United States-Canada game last night was absolutely fire. 3 minutes, 3 fights in the first 9 seconds of the match. People just beating the heck out of each other. Intensity, high skill, high level of passion. One of the best hockey games I have seen in a long time. And maybe we need to start finding other ways like this to make these all-star breaks better, because this is a phenomenal game. So I just want to say, I don't know what the NBA was doing. The dunk contest is cool because of McClung. Outside of him, everybody else kind of sucks. It sucks because there's no superstars in it anymore, right? The people that actually matter or people want to see aren't participating. And the All-Star game is like a walkthrough, right? It's like a shoot around. Do I care? I can watch you shoot around in practice. Sorry, I digress. Anyway, you can find me on X, anonymous_Bean. And if you haven't watched hockey, check out this Four Nations Cup, because it's fire. The quality of play is very, very high. The final is going to be on Thursday. The United States will be in the final. They've already clinched their spot. It'll either be against Canada, Finland, or who knows, but probably Canada.
Finland,
I guess. Well, Finland hasn't been doing very well, so they're not going to. But they're in the tournament nonetheless. Anyway, so that's about all I got going on. Start my new job tomorrow, so excited about that. Excited about a new chapter in my life, and just stay positive out there, everybody. Even in bull markets, there's chopping sideways, there's retraces, and this is a unique cycle. So stay positive. We're closer to the good times than we were a year ago.
Excellent. I like it. All righty. I want to thank all of you for spending your valuable time with us here on the Degen Roundtable. As Agent J literally said not but a moment ago, we know that time is your most valuable asset, and we appreciate you investing it right here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Will Stevenson, but more importantly, you have been watching the Degen Roundtable, and I'm going to actually break my my copywriting script here early because I just realized there's like one chat shout out that I didn't do. Mrs. Producer, can you pull up Mr. Johnny Chaos? Did you say chaotic? I absolutely did, sir. Welcome to the stream, Mr. Johnny Chaos. I almost forgot to shout you out before we ended the show, but we got you in there right there at the last second. So thank you for joining us, amigo. And on the subject of thanking everyone for joining us again, remember, the most important part is that you guys have been watching the Degen Roundtable. Mrs. Producer, go ahead and get that trigger figure ready because it's time to remind all the folks at home to remember to Degen responsibly.
A damn good show, gang.